The most powerful person in the world, he has no idea how to get along with others, and he must learn some manners if he wants to save the world. Prepare your notebooks and your spells, it's time to enter the world of Kenja no Mago. Chapter 1. A young Japanese salaryman goes home late at night. Plunged into his boring and lonely life and tired from late hours, he is hit by a truck and his life ends there. This young man reincarnates as a baby in a world full of magic, where it is not necessary to say the name of the spells but one can use them simply by visualizing them. Once in that world, he is welcomed by the magician Merlin Wolford, who names him Shin and raises him as his grandson in the forest. As he grows up, he is taught magic by Merlin, Merlin's friend Mulita how to make magic items, and Michelle the warrior how to handle the sword. At 8 years old, he already shows great abilities, which makes his grandfather proud but worries Mulita a bit since he is exposing himself to too many dangers. 2 years later, when Shin is already 10 years old, Merlin takes him to face a demon hunt for the first time. There the old man explains that everyone in that magical world can have magic, but if they fail to control it, these creatures become violent and become demons. Even the people. In the search, the grandfather explains that he can find the magical beings using his own magic, but for this he must control it perfectly. However, before he can finish the lesson, Shin has already found the demon using that technique, which surprised Merlin. Once they get to where the demon is, Shin attacks it directly, without giving his grandfather a chance to support him, as he tries to warn him that the Red Wolf is a very strong demon. Again, to Merlin's surprise, the boy defeats the demon in 2 seconds and without a drop of sweat on his forehead. That night, while Shin sleeps, Merlin, Michelle and Mulita talk to each other, surprised by the great abilities of our protagonist, who has the potential to surpass his teachers, so they begin to think that it would not be strange if he came from another planet. This makes Merlin soften and tell Shin that he is not his real grandfather, but that he found him in the forest and adopted him, but Shin tells him that he already knew because he remembers that moment and is glad that he adopted him. At 15, Merlin realizes that he never taught Shin to live with common sense and knows nothing outside of the forest. When he is asked to get a job as a demon hunter, Shin manages to realize that he has never even done the shopping in his life, having spent all his time learning magic. After an incredible display of his magic, Merlin is also reluctant to allow Shin into society, as Shin has been using his previous life's scientific knowledge to concoct spells that could turn society upside down. While discussing the matter, Shin learns that his uncle Dis, older brother Sieg, and older sister Chris are actually King Diziem of Alsheid, Christina of the Kingsguard, and Siegfried the court magician, all of whom are old friends of Shin's. Marlene. He also learns that Merlin and Mulita are formerly husband and wife. They decide that Shin attends the Alsheid Academy of Magic to learn about society and make friends, so he moves to a house in the city along with Merlin and Mulita. While exploring the city, Shin effortlessly saves 2 girls from bullies, and having never met girls his age, he falls for one of them. Episode 2. The girls, Maria and Sicilian, thank Shin for saving them and tell him that they also hope to enter the academy. Maria seems to be very excited that Merlin and Mulita are in town and is hoping to meet her grandson, who is rumored to be very skilled. Shin listens to this but decides to hide his identity so he won't be treated differently. Once our protagonist leaves, greeting the girls, it is revealed that Sicilian, whom Shin is infatuated with, is also infatuated with him. Once at the academy, before the exams, Shin earns Kurt's enmity, because this boy, being a nobleman, wants to face him, but our protagonist easily turns the confrontation around. At that moment, August, the son of King Diziem, Shin's cousin, appears and scolds Kurt, who storms off. August and Shin start to get along in the best way. In the magic tests, Shin manages to see that his power is vastly superior to that of his companions, who must not only recite the spell they are using but also have very basic powers. Despite controlling himself so as not to destroy the place, our protagonist's magic is very strong and leaves both students and teachers of the academy surprised. After all the tests, Shin is first in the exam and has to give a speech, which makes the boy nervous because he expected that August, being a nobleman, would come out first, but he tells him that in the academy titles do not matter because it is all for merit. Kurt is enraged to find out that he is in Class A while Shin has made it to Upper Class S and thinks he cheated, so he swears to get revenge. Shin modifies the protective spells on his academy uniform, which shocks Mulita, who begs him not to tell anyone about this. At the speech, the new students learn that Shin is the grandson of Mulida and Merlin, which makes their jaws drop. Except for Kurt, who he only manages to infuriate even more. Sicilian turns to Shin for help, as she is constantly threatened and persecuted by Kurt, who assures that they are engaged, despite the girl's repeated rejections. Shin sets out to help her, but Kurt shows up, using his noble title to continue threatening Sicilian, who he says could get his father fired from his job. As Shin is about to take matters into his own hands, August appears using his royal status to force Kurt to leave. Later, Shin invites everyone to his house to ask Merlin and Mulida if he can alter Sicilian's uniform to protect her against Kurt. Mulida reveals that this would turn Sicilian's uniform into a national treasure level item. Understanding what that means, Sicilian tries to refuse, proving to Mulida that she is honest and deserving of protection. After seeing Shin's great power, Deuxième asks Shin to never reveal that he can create national treasure items or it could cause a war between kingdoms, though he asks for uniforms for August, Julius, and Thor. Shin does so, although Maria does not love one because she rejects it and prefers not to wear a uniform of such value. Upon returning, Shin offers to take everyone home using his teleportation spell, which he can only use in places he already knows, and which was also meant to remain a secret. Chapter 3. Shin begins to accompany Sicilian to school to protect her, which makes the girl very happy who loves spending time with him. Shin decides not to join any club, so Augustus suggests that he start his own. Before Shin accepts or denies this, his classmates and teachers start creating projects and plans for him, to which the entire class insists on joining. Without Shin saying a word, the ultimate magic study group ends up being formed. The Deuxième Council discusses the increase in demon sightings. One of the counselors postulates that due to the gradual increase of demons, everything could be the work of an artificial plan created by man, but there are other counselors who deny that theory. Finally, Deuxième orders an investigation. Kurt's father confronts him about his behavior as various notifications have reached him. Kurt erupts and rants about the uselessness of commoners and his hatred of Shin, saying that he and his family are the chosen ones and that everything has gotten worse since Shin's appearance, so he needs to do something about it. Observing this, Kurt's father worries about his son and his change in attitude and decides to lock him up and remove him from the academy. Upon hearing the news, his classmates wonder why Kurt has changed so radically, since they have known him for a long time and he had never behaved in this way. Thor then reveals that Kurt's behavior changed after visiting Mr. Strom, a blind professor exiled from another realm. Following a flame from Kurt's mother, Strom visits Kurt and casts a spell that turns the boy's eyes red. With this spell he reminds Kurt that he is special and convinces him to teach Shin a lesson for being a nuisance. Shin accidentally reveals another secret when he tells his friends that he killed a demon when he was 10 years old and tells them about the ability to sense unwanted and dark powers nearby. Suddenly, Shin senses a demon nearby, then Kurt appears and tries to kill them all, having transformed into a demonoid. Shin forces everyone else to flee while he confronts Kurt. Seeing that he hurts him and that he can talk, he understands that he is not a full demon, so he hopes to destroy the demonic magic and spare Kurt's life. However, the demonoid begins a spell capable of destroying the entire academy, so Shin, despite himself, finds no other option than to cut off his head and end his life to save those of thousands of companions. After the victory, Shin only manages to feel bad because it is the first time he has eliminated a person, in addition to the fact that everything that is happening around him seems strange. Later, Augustus warns him that he is the second demonoid to appear in the story, so having destroyed him will make him famous and make life difficult for him in the near future. Chapter 4. Strom is satisfied because his plan has worked perfectly, and now he has Shin in his sights after having observed his great power. Later, Shin becomes concerned as he wonders if it will be so easy to become a demonoid. Furthermore, according to the information he had obtained from his grandfather when he was a child, Kurt did not meet all the symptoms to be a demonoid, since he had his own discernment and could speak. Because of all this, he ends up theorizing that Kurt was the victim of a human experiment, an artificially created demonoid. For destroying Kurt and saving the academy, Deuxième presents Shin with a medal and the First Order merit. Observing this, Merlin and Mulida get angry because Deuxième involves Shin in politics. However, he gives him the reasons why he is rewarding him and promises that he will not allow his grandson to be used for political issues. The two elders consider this a good point and accept Dizim's words, but warn him that if he starts using the name Shin, they will leave the kingdom. The next day, while walking through the town, everyone turns to look at Shin and the girls are head over heels in love with him. Later, Shin's fame forces his tutors to test students who want to join his study group in order to keep membership numbers manageable, so they take an exclusive exam. Dizim explains to his council Shin's theory that Kurt was an artificially created demonoid, so he insists that they investigate the matter. Finally, two students manage to join Shin's group, Mark the son of a blacksmith and Olivia the daughter of a restaurant owner. Taking advantage of the boy's knowledge, Shin asks Mark to improve his sword to better handle his spells, to which Mark happily agrees. The security office investigates Strom, as they manage to notice that the day Kurt demonized himself, Professor Strom had visited him. When they go to ask him some questions, Strom comments that he lost his eyes when one of his family members attacked him in an attempt to finish him off. After telling his story, the professor expresses his remorse for Kurt's death. After this, the researchers invite him to help by studying Kurt's corpse to take advantage of his magical knowledge. However, once in the castle, the investigators reveal that Kurt's name was never made public, so they lock Strom up among several guards, telling him what his mistake was and how they discovered it, and asking him what the purpose of all this was. Then Strom replies that he was simply doing an experiment, and since he has finished his business in the kingdom, the professor decides to escape, destroying much of the castle. Seeing this and understanding that he is the culprit of Kurt's enchantment, Shin duels him in a duel that destroys Strom's mask, revealing that he is not blind but has demonoid eyes. As Strom thinks he's going to win, Shin casts a heat ray spell so hot it turns the sandy floor to glass, leaving Shin unsure if Strom disintegrated or escaped. As everyone believes that our protagonist has defeated the professor, the Dizim Council congratulates him on his victory, and they ask him how he did it. Although Shin tries to explain his heat ray spell, they have no idea what he is talking about, as it seems that even that is far superior to the magic of the place. Towards the end it is revealed that Strom escaped and survived, but that he considers Shin to be a very dangerous person and must destroy him. Chapter 5. Melita worries that Shin and Sicilian are not yet a couple, despite Maria telling her that they are both hopelessly in love with each other. Later, Shin shares his concern that Strom is alive because after testing his power again, there was no explosion like the Strom's, so he believes that such an explosion was a trick for the professor to escape. Hearing this, August pays Mark's father to design a new sword, as the entire kingdom knows that Shin is the only one capable of facing Strom on the same level. On the other hand, the king of Blusphia learns from Zest, his spy, that Alsheid is harassed by demons and plans to invade him. Before leaving, he roughs up Zest and Zest gives him a dark, mocking look. Shin decides to buy Sicilian a ring, which puzzles her and excites her in equal parts, until she reveals it's for another defense charm. This breaks the girl's illusion and even angers her friends for her idiocy and tactlessness. Dizim presents Shin with his medal in a public ceremony where he is applauded by all, while promising that Shin will never be used in politics or war. Later, our protagonist and his friends must go to the academy through a portal, because the fans do not stop chasing him. Back at the academy, Shin decides to help his friends level up, but he has difficulties, since to cast his spells he needs scientific knowledge that his friends don't have, because they don't even know what proportional magic control is. Finally, he decides that every day they will practice magic control since it is the base of all power, and his companions agree with that. Strom and his subordinate Miria appear secretly manipulating the king of Blusphia. Shin's friends are inspired when Merlin explains that it is possible to learn Shin's spells, showing that he can now use Shin's teleportation spell. However, he explains to them that Shin's ways of creating his powers are different from everyone else's, as he visualizes not only the result but the mechanism, achieving even stronger powers. Following Tony's instructions, which has a detachable blade to facilitate its replacement in case of breakage, Shin's sword is ready and our protagonist goes to look for it. August wonders if the design can be used by the military to cut costs, especially with the war against Blusphia looming. Despite Dizim's promise, Shin decides that he will join the war if necessary to protect his family and friends. Chapter 6. Alsheid defeats Blufia's army and the king is deeply enraged by Zest's erroneous data that due to the increase in demons in the area, Alsheid would be unable to defend against an enemy attack. At the same time, it is revealed that there is a large mass of demons in the capital, so Bluefia decides to retreat. When Alsheid doesn't understand why his enemy is retreating if he hasn't been defeated yet, news reaches them that demons are attacking his army. In the capital, Miria has also become a demonoid, and together with Strom they plan what to do when Bluefia's army returns along with Zest. At the castle, Strom kills the king and destroys Bluefia, passing a message to the Dizzium Council in which he comments that he destroyed Bluefia and turned more than a dozen of its strongest wizards into demonoids under his control. In turn, he thanks them for having weakened Bluefia's army, as that made his task easier. Hearing the new news, Dizzium declares that the students of the academy should train alongside the students of the Knights Military Institute, in order to be stronger in case a war against the demonoids happens. This new rule that upsets everyone, since the students of the Knights are notorious bullies. Shin forms a team with August, Sicilian, Maria, and 4 knights, Kreis, Miranda, Noon, and Kent. These knights are convinced that the magicians do not contribute anything and will only be an obstacle, because they alone can destroy the demons. Fed up with the knights' attitudes, August orders Shin to let the knights fight the demons without them to see how they manage. Shin learns that his team's advisors are Siegfried and Christina and is excited. After encountering a boar demon, the knights are quickly defeated, forcing Shin to save them by cutting off the boar's head. The knights are amazed at how Shin defeated the demon in one move, and after scolding from Christina they realize how much they still have to learn and how important the support of a mage is. Sicilian then heals all the knights' wounds, causing all 3 men to fall in love with her, making Shin, Maria, and Miranda jealous. However, the moments of jealousy are interrupted because a large horde of more than 100 demons approaches. Shin asks to face all of them alone as he is enraged, and quickly destroys them all with a massive explosion spell, impressing everyone present. Seeing this, Miranda apologizes for being jealous of Shin's abilities, and then apologizes to Sicilian for insulting her boyfriend, causing enormous embarrassment to both Shin and Sicilian, who insists that they are not dating yet. Chapter 7. Our knights and wizards start to learn to fight together. They manage to eliminate demons even with a little effort, but the other teams of wizards and knights can't get along well. Seeing how well the team gets along, Siegfried thanks Shin because it's thanks to him, and our hero tells him that they have a specialized class for magicians where they learn how to visualize like him. This excites Siegfried, who asks Shin to teach him as well. However, at that moment August interrupts, saying that this could be problematic because since Siegfried is in the military, it would be using Shin for political purposes, in addition to the fact that it is dangerous for Shin's power to spread because it could create very powerful wars between humans. After long explanations and noticing the great skills of the study group, August gives a piece of news that makes Shin feel guilty. And it is that for having taught some of their spells to their study club, they will be forced to form a special team after graduation, under the command of August, and they will be supervised by the kingdom for the rest of their lives. However, the whole club is happy as they see it as a recognition of his skills and a guaranteed career. Days later, August informs this new group that most of Bluefia has been destroyed and even more demonoids have been created from its population. For this, the study group must become stronger and stronger, since now they are an important part of the defense of the kingdom. Suspecting that Strom is behind it, Shin decides to put the club members through training camp over summer vacation, and Sicilian offers them the use of a hot spring his family owns. Hearing this, Merlin and Melita insist on going as escorts, since they don't trust boys and girls to be together without adult supervision, and they don't trust leaving Shin unsupervised as he always gets into trouble. Along the way, they encounter a large number of demons, and after an argument over who will face it, 2 of the girls take the initiative and easily destroy them. Already in the spa, even the servants of the Sicilian family make fun of her for her future relationship with Shin, which embarrasses both boys until they blush. When the groups of boys meet at the hot springs, Merlin is glad that Shin has made such good male friends, and Shin thanks him for taking care of him. In the girls' group, Melita amuses herself by making the girls jealous over their bodies and then declares that she and Merlin are also going to train the club members to be as strong as possible. Chapter 8. The training is going smoothly and even the students are already able to cast spells without saying the name of the spell. Despite that, Shin knows that the war against the demonoids is coming, so he sets out to improve the power not only of his companions but also his own, which scares the young people since they already consider him very powerful. Saying that, Shin manages to make his explosion spell even stronger, earning Molida's punishment for his recklessness and the astonishment of his teammates. Through a portal, August and Shin visit August's house and find his fiancée Elizabeth and her little sister May, who are furious that August didn't invite them to meet Molida and now both insist on attending the training camp. Elizabeth admits that she has an ulterior motive, to make sure Shin doesn't steal from August, since Shin is all August talks about. On the love side, August warns Shin that unless he confesses to Sicilian soon, he may end up with someone else. But Shin still doesn't feel ready for it because he's not sure if Sicilian feels the same way he does. When they are already at the camp, August reminds Ellie and May that this is a magic and training camp, so they can't be waiting for them and he expects them to behave. Later, in a burst of sincerity, Sicilian confesses her desire to have children with Shin, so Shin finally realizes that August is right and decides to confess his love to Sicilian. Through tears, the girl tells him that she loves him too and that she only thought that he was being nice to her. After a touching conversation, both boys decide to get engaged. However, when they are about to give their first kiss, they are interrupted as it is revealed that all their friends, Merlin, Molida, and even Sicilian's servants were spying on them. Faced with the shame of the two young people, everyone around them celebrates the situation that they have been waiting for so long and congratulates them on their new relationship. The next day, Shin insists on training at the beach, using it as an excuse to play wizard volleyball, a game in which the only enchantments may be directed at the ball. In the game, they all show great magical abilities, but one of the girls doesn't control her power well, so one of the shots from the ball almost hit Ellie and May. Fortunately, Merlin arrives in time to save them. Late at night, everyone remembers their childhood and the way they met, but when Molida breaks in to tell them to sleep, they all hide. Shin accidentally jumps into Sicilian's bed to hide, and his screams alert Molida that everyone is still awake, so she lectures them mercilessly. Chapter 9. Shin and Sicilian temporarily escape training to go to the girl's house. There, our protagonist informs Sicilian's parents, Cecil and Eileen, that they are dating. Although Cecil is delighted, Eileen warns him that Sicilian being the daughter of a viscount comes with expectations. Upon hearing this, and without hesitation, a second Shin agrees to become Sicilian's fiancé. Later, Merlin invites Elizabeth and May to Shin's training. Elizabeth admits that she doesn't know how to use magic, but May shows potential, which makes Ellie a bit jealous and the other girls are proud. On the other hand, Strom's demons attack the merchant caravans, disrupting the country's food supply, increasing discontent. So, the professor decides that it is time to act. In training, Shin invents a spell that allows him to fly, something he had only seen Strom do, but again no one understands his explanation. Later, Molida and Merlin explain to Sicilian's parents that Shin is not their biological grandson, but Cecil and Eileen assure them that they accept Shin for his character, not his lineage, so they still agree to go through with the betrothal. Shin creates even more national treasure clothing to protect the club members on their next demon hunt, though he does not enchant the boots as handling them to fly would be too difficult. Since May feels left out, Shin creates a magical device that allows her to talk to them during the hunt, angering Molida for creating yet another society-altering device. In training, Shin lets the club members fight, proving that they are now strong enough to slay demons without him, even facing off against a catastrophe class, whom they manage to defeat. Later, Shin and Sicilian attend a party to announce their engagement. Despite having gone through the formal engagement process, Shin waits until after the party to privately ask Sicilian to marry him with an engagement ring. Chapter 10. Strom completes his destruction of the empire after demonizing the commoners who little by little kill the nobility, as the professor has a great hatred against the imperial novel. However, by doing those things, it is also many commoners who suffer. Zest also does her part by leading the demonoids to cut off food supplies. With the empire destroyed, Strom states that he has achieved his goal and no longer needs an army, so he releases the demonoids. Many of them, enraged, try to convince the professor that together they could turn everyone into a demonoid, but he doesn't seem to care, so the commoners leave. Miria questions his hatred of the empire, so Strom explains that he was a lord of the empire, but he did not agree with the empire keeping slaves and made life as prosperous for commoners as possible, guided by the lifestyle of the commoners in Alsheid who lived happily and without poverty. For this, the other lords hated him, since most of his workforce moved to live on Strom's land, thus reducing his tax benefits. So, the Herald King along with other nobles devise a plan to get him down from the place where he is. Thus, through different voices, he accused Strom of kidnapping commoners who lived on his land to sell them as slaves. Furious commoners set fire to Strom's house while he was away, thus wiping out his wife Arya and their unborn child. When he arrives at his burned-down house, the commoners blame him by telling him the story they were sold, so Strom manages to realize the ruse the nobles had planned against him. Then, filled with grief and deeply betrayed, Strom demonized himself and vowed to destroy the empire of Blusvia, for its king had destroyed everything important to him. For this reason, once his goal has been achieved, Strom is left without direction. Upon hearing his master's story, Zest sends his subordinate Lawrence to convince the Demonoids to attack Alsheid's neighboring kingdom of Swede, hoping to lure Shin into a battle and provide Strom with the new target to destroy. To Shin. While a ceremony is taking place naming August the official heir to Dizem, news arrives of the Demonoid attack on Swede. After August's speech, he forces our protagonist to say something motivational, so Shin nervously announces that he is going to change the name of his club to the Ultimate Magicians before flying off to Swede. Chapter 11. With Shin's power allowing them to fly, he and the Ultimate Mages reach Swede in a matter of minutes instead of several days, luckily for the soldiers who couldn't hold off more than 100 Demonoids for long. No sooner does he arrive than the team begins slaughtering the shocked Demonoids while August gives a speech to rally the citizens and soldiers of Swede. They all take it upon themselves to destroy the Demonoids, while Sicilian focuses on healing the wounded. The King of Swede is grateful for these new troops coming to his defense, while Lawrence spies on Shin to see how strong he is. During the battle, the mages discover that all the Demonoids are commoners from the destroyed Blusvia Empire, that they have somehow preserved their sanity, and that they all hate the nobility. However, despite understanding the situation of the commoners, they fail to empathize with them because now they are aware of the damage they generate and do not care. In addition to the fact that they end up harming innocent people and in the same conditions as them. In battle, each of the students manages to demonstrate their great skills and easily defeat the Demonoids one by one. Many of them, before being eliminated, claimed that their ultimate goal is to conquer the world, but Shin destroys them and tells him that they floor too high to be so pathetic. Lawrence continues to secretly watch Shin and is amazed by his magical abilities, coming to believe that he might not have any weaknesses that Strom could exploit. August and Maria confront the leader of the Demonoids, Fabro, and the battle turns difficult since he is not as weak as the other Demonoids, but they end up defeating him despite the fact that he uses defensive magic items stolen from Swede's soldiers. With over 100 Demonoids dead, Lawrence is amazed at not only Shin's power, but also the power of the Ultimate Mages. Nearby, Zest wonders if he should reconsider his plan for Strom to face Shin, as he isn't sure he could survive. At the same time, noting that Lawrence won't be able to push them back and since he needs as many Demonoids as possible, Zest asks Miria to intervene. For his part, Strom, who already knew about Zest's plan, decides to humor him. Chapter 12. Miria's power is excessively great and she manages to seriously injure many of Shin's companions, but when facing our protagonist, she realizes that she will not be able to fight him, especially if her friends are there to support her, so she decides to leave. Thus, with Miria as a distraction, Lawrence and the Demonoids manage to withdraw without further casualties, but worried about the power observed in the battle. After the Demonoids flee, Shin and the team begin to help heal the injured. At one point, Sicilian fails to heal a man's injuries, but Shin manages to concoct a multi-step healing spell, saving the man's life and leaving August to wonder just how powerful Shin will become. August asks Swede to form an alliance with Alsheid in case either kingdom is attacked, as the burden of fighting the Demonoids cannot be borne by a single nation. Swede agrees to discuss it further to agree on the rules of the alliance. Seeing the complex landscape ahead, August and Shin decide to travel to as many kingdoms as possible to form alliances and make it possible for Shin to teleport to whatever kingdom is under attack, thus avoiding wasting a single second. Dizem is proud that August intends to seek alliances with other kingdoms, as it shows that he will be a great ruler. For their part, Merlin and Mullida tell Shin to keep August safe on his journey, as he is a very important figure. Elizabeth and May insist on going too, as do all the Ultimates. Magician. For his part, Strom is irritated that his subordinates have lost Shin, but asks Miria to keep him informed if their plan to conceive a baby together has been successful. Zest doesn't know if she should be happy or afraid that Strom has decided to make defeating Shin his new purpose. Shin and the wizards leave for the next kingdom. Merlin and Melita realize that for once they can completely relax, only for the wizards to teleport back, revealing that they intend to teleport back each night to save money on renting rooms for 14 people.